Missions is where you can plant in someone else's field and it actually grows in you. We can plant resources in this other field, and the harvest is not just there, it's here. So I'm at the prayer retreat right after the election, and I'm just begging Jesus, what am I supposed to do with this? And that's over a period of 3 or 4 days of prayer, just distilling it down to the simplicity of, Father, use us in Illinois. Father, send us to the nations, and Father, unite us in your love. And this council, Dick, you're here, well, A, because you're in the States, and we're friends, and I value your singular call and your voice in my life, but also in our movement. And this year, I wanted it to just put back in the forefront of our church's mind, like, Father, send us to the nations, like that. If a district isn't praying that, isn't thinking that, then I don't think we're about the will of the Father. And so talk to us about just being sent to the nations. What bubbles in your spirit? What do you have to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you, Joel. First thing that comes to mind is, and I shared this with you, 32 years ago I became an Illinois missionary. And one of the reasons that I am an Illinois missionary was the quality of missionaries that this district was sending out to the Muslim world. David and Julie Leatherberry. You look at the Hausfeld family. You look at the Stitt family, the Pack family. There was all these amazing missionaries going to the Muslim world. And as a young punk who wanted to pioneer, I wanted to be a part of a district like that.
A pioneering district.
Yes, that sent their very best. So the first thing that comes to mind is, if we as a district are going to recapture the glory of Jesus amongst the nations and sending, we're going to have to send our best. So if you'll allow me, this is sometimes what has happened over the years. We don't know what to do with Tommy Boy here. He can't sing. He can't preach. He's terrible with kids. I know.
Make him superintendent?
No. Let's send him to Pakistan. Well, that's not a blessing to Pakistan, right? Or, here's sweet little Susie, and she's not good for much, and I don't really have a place for her in my church. What do we, Susie? Oh, let's send her to South America. Not a blessing to South America. I'm just so glad that the Father didn't look around heaven and say, the Son's too important to send. I'm grooming him to take over for me. But, there's a little left-handed, blind, half-lame angel over here. We can spare that one. We'll send that guy to earth to die for the nations. It doesn't work that way. The Father sent the Son. And in that sending, we must also find our primary basis for sending our best, the ones we can't afford to send, the ones that we would prefer to take over for us, the ones that we're leaning on as our right-hand lady or right-hand man. Those are the ones that the nations deserve.
Yeah. I think how can that not be the heart of a shepherd, of a pastor, to facilitate and to steward God's call in people and never to hold. Like the moment the church is ours to hold, that this leader is ours to hold. It doesn't matter if you're a youth pastor, a kids pastor, a worship leader with your best vocalist who comes to you and says, I feel called to lead worship at the small church down the road. The moment we try to hold and possess other people for our benefit, we have vacated the Lord's purposes. We've missed it. We're no longer a follower of Jesus. Jesus was always releasing to go.
And the effect of that is it's just the law of sowing and reaping. It works counter to what we think. We think we got to hold on and conserve. But if we send, the Lord always replaces. And the Lord raises up people, and the Lord brings up people into our churches, into our ministry positions. So it is counterintuitive, but it's actually in the best interest of the church to send their best. Because if they do, the Lord will honor that. He will
Yeah.
honor that sacrificial generosity and supply our pulpits and supply our worship teams and supply our youth departments. But we just have to believe that in letting go and sending our best, we honor the Lord's spirit of sending, and he will then send to our churches the very ones we need to fill those
Yeah.
ministry posts.
Yeah. It's easy for the sending church to view our resources as like a zero-sum formula. Like if I give this $10,000 or this $1,000 away to the nations, that somehow then I have less. I think we were together in Washington, D.C. for the missions thing. I've got it in my journal. I don't recall who said it, but I wrote it down, like missions. Maybe it was Rob Ketterling or Patterson. Like missions is where you can plant in someone else's field and it actually grows in yours. Like I thought, that's perfect for our Midwest farmer, right?
Yeah.
We can plant resources in this other field, and the harvest is not just there, it's here. It is never either or.
Another thought on sending is, you might remember back in the day, I'm going back to the 90s now, in order to be an AGWM missionary, you had to be 35 years old, you had to have senior pastored for 2 years,
Yeah.
and you could only have 2 kids or less. What we're getting on the field right now, and there's a beautiful aspect of it, is a lot of young people, 22 years old or in their mid-20s, who don't have a lot of pastoral experience or ministry experience. And that's fine. We're training them on the field. However, we're missing something. We're missing the maturity of those who have life, marketplace, ministry, child-rearing experience in their own culture. And so the other thing I'd like to say, Joel, and to the district is when we think about sending, we maybe also need to think about sending ourselves, meaning it's not just you as a pastor sending some of your young people or your retirees to the field. I think the Lord is still calling some of our current pastors to be missionaries, because they're going to bring in a depth of ministry experience that was very much needed at this point in time. So even in that, the Lord will fill those pulpits. I know that's maybe scary to use as superintendent.
No, it's not scary at all. I think it's beautiful. I mean, to steward that, if someone were to come to me and say, "Oh, Pastor, I think God is brewing a call to go to some unengaged people." I mean, what joy would it be to stand before Jesus and had a small part in sending one of ours, and to I mean, it's such a delicate thing to be in leadership when Jesus has asked you to steward ministers and missionaries. Like, wow, that I have to give an account to Jesus to how I steward those conversations. So, yeah, I don't want another pulpit to fill. I don't need a church without a pastor. But if Jesus is in it, how can we not fan that ember to flame? So, as far as Illinois goes, Dick, we would send them out with joy and fandom and parade. And I hope, Lord willing, like extra financial blessing as the Lord helps us and provides us with great strategy to advance missions out of and from Illinois.
A third sending point, Joel, is, remember I said I was inspired by those early years in Illinois because we had all these pioneers. You got Bart Lottie going to Pakistan. You've got Leatherberries going into Afghanistan. They were going to the difficult places and doing the difficult things. As we look at sending, there are 2,000 unengaged people groups in our world today. That's 2,000 people groups with no missionaries.
Yeah, so unengaged.
Yeah.
No missionaries there, and probably no known believers.
So there's no churches, there's no Bible schools, there's no Christian camps, there's no Christian schools, there's no Christian anything.
There's no access
to Jesus.
And no one there to actively engage that people group.
Right. And so where do we want to send our people? Where Jesus is not known, where there's no access to the gospel. We want to prioritize that. There's other important roles to play around the world, but I would love it if Illinois would say, we're going to prioritize the unengaged, unreached people groups of our earth. And as we raise up missionaries, we're going to send them to where there's nothing so that people can have access to Jesus.
Yeah, so maybe just as a district, beginning to pray for these unreached, unengaged people groups by name and presenting to our churches and our people these dear neighbors around the globe are not going to have opportunity to be around the throne. Like every tribe, every tongue, every nation
and I love what
access.
And I love what you're saying about prayer. Oswald Chambers, who actually died in Egypt as a missionary, the author of My Utmost for His Highest, he said, prayer is not preparation for the battle, it is the battle. If every Illinois church adopted an unengaged people group to pray for, if every Illinois youth group adopted an unengaged people group to pray for, if we as a district became a praying for missions district, sons and daughters will rise up. Finances will follow that. But I think it all originates in prayer.
Pray to the Lord of the harvest. That the laborers are sent. I mean, that's, So just, can we recap? I mean, I think you gave 3, like, what does it mean to be sent to the nations? Hit them again, and maybe a little rapid succession.
All right. Number 1, we send our best. Number 2, don't discount that pastors also are being called into missions, and they bring maturity with them. Number 3, let's prioritize the places where there are no missionaries. Let's prioritize the unengaged, and we do that by starting in prayer.
It's going to be a great district council. So we're so glad you're coming.
Thank you.